I own the DVD of this film, and it's quite funny that when I put it into my PS4, I didn't immediately start it because I wanted to do some stuff around the house. Yeah, the movie didn't care about that and automatically started without me selecting play my movie after about 45 seconds of sitting at the main menu. Yeah, baby girl clearly wanted me to power through this one. What's up, guys? It's Courtney, one half of the Brothers of Deconstruction, and I'm bringing you my super late review for Queen of the Damned. This movie came out in 2002, and it stars Aaliyah as the titular vampire queen Akasha, and Stuart Townsend as Lestat. Marguerite Moreau, Vincent Perez, Paul McGann, and Lena Olin also star. It's loosely based on the third book of the same name in the Anne Rice's The Vampire Chronicles series. Now, I'm not familiar with the Rice novels in any sense, and I remember watching Interview with a Vampire when I was a kid, but I've heard this is a terrible adaptation because it tries to cram story from the second book, The Vampire Lestat, along with being loosely based on the third book of the same name. And in doing so, it leaves out a lot of important and interesting information. Queen of the Damned is mostly about Lestat moping around because he's lonely. Back when he was still a newly turned vampire, he awoke Queen Akasha, who was a statue lying dormant next to her king, with his violin skills. He awakens her again later on with his new metal music, and she comes searching for him. Later on, Lestat and other vampires attack Akasha, and Lena Olin's vampire Maharet takes the last drop, which kills Akasha and turns Maharet into a statue as the new Queen of the Damned. And that's the quickest way that I can explain what the movie is about while skipping over a lot. And that's how you can tell they tried to cram a lot into this film while leaving out important backstory for characters that pop up. And the movie isn't even scary. Queen of the Damned had a budget of $35 million and made $45.4 million worldwide, which isn't really good, so I'm not sure why on the Wikipedia page it says it was a moderate success, because that doesn't look like it. It has a 5.3 out of 10 on IMDb, 30% on Metacritic, and 17% critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes, albeit with a 66% approval rating from audiences, with the general critic consensus being, and I quote, a muddled and campy MTV-styled vampire movie with lots of eye candy and bad accents, end quote. Having seen what the ratings were before I watched the movie, after I finished, I went back and I read some of the reviews to see if I agreed with any of them, because I remember loving this as a kid because, as I stated before, I'm a big Aaliyah fan. However, while I disagree that the film is terrible, it's definitely not good. Queen of the Damned is mostly boring as hell. The first half of the movie is all about Lestat and his origins, but of that, we simply see him waking up in an unfamiliar room and gets turned right after, and then we see him out on the hunt with his mentor Marius, played by Vincent Perez. We're given voiceover of how he's been longing for a companion, while Marguerite Moreau plays Jessie, who's a researcher that's also kind of a hardcore fan and wants to be turned, but that's only because she's a descendant of Maharet, which is probably backstory that would have been cool to see, but whatever. Aaliyah doesn't pop up until the 51-minute mark is what I read somewhere. So she doesn't pop up until halfway through the film, and that same source also says she only has about 26 minutes of screen time. Now, apparently the book talks about the creation of vampires and all that jazz, and again, we really don't get any of that info because the first half of the film is about Lestat wanting to be a rock star out in the open with his vampirism, revealing secrets in his music while looking for a long-term mate, and even kind of hoping to die, or at least that's what I got from it. The movie takes itself way too seriously, and you can tell by the performances. Townsend tries too hard to be cool, and it looks like Zoolander to me when he does it. He comes off as bland and boring, which is why the first half of the movie, based around him, seems boring as well. Moreau's Jesse comes off as crazed, but stupid at the same time with some of the decisions she makes in the film. Aaliyah is the only one who looks like she was having fun. The reason why I brought up Aaliyah's first appearance and screen time was because there was one review that I agreed with saying, whatever life there is to the movie is what she brings to it. You can really tell that she had fun playing a villain in this film. The introduction to her when she enters a club and slowly slithers around dancing before ripping the heart out of a vampire that reveals a plan for everybody to murder Lestat at his big concert in Death Valley because he's spilling those secrets is a great scene. She's sexy as usual and uses that sex appeal to her advantage in the portrayal. I wanted to make an adjustment to my review of Romeo Must Die because I realized after the fact I didn't talk about how the pacing of the film kind of slowed down and overall it was less interesting when Jet Li and Aaliyah weren't sharing the screen together. I wanted to bring that up because it's similar with this film. The movie is only interesting when Akasha is on the screen. Now, I agree about the bad accents, and I'm not sure who else has an accent, but Aaliyah has a weird one. I can't tell if it's supposed to be British or African, which would be weird if it was British because Akasha is an Egyptian vampire. It's hard to judge her performance though because it's not completely hers. You see, she completed filming for the movie before the accident, but hadn't been able to do any ADR dubbings for her lines. So they brought in her brother Rashad, who has a similar soft voice like hers, and he dubbed some of her lines. So not only was some of the line delivery not hers, they also added this vocal effect in order to give her like an otherworldly and almost commanding voice, I guess. So because of all this, I can't really critique her performance too hard. Now, there are some shaky moments, but overall, she really does steal her scenes because you can tell she's really into it and having a great time doing it. Now, I'm not into heavy metal, or nu metal is what it was called at the time, I guess, and that's code for saying generally everybody thinks it's trash. But Jonathan Davis of Korn performed and wrote Lestat's songs in the film. And there were a couple of cool sounding songs, at least to me. But I think the orchestral score is actually pretty decent too. I'm not sure if it's Akasha's thing, but there's a piece that plays whenever we fast travel to a moment with Akasha that sounds pretty damn menacing and terrifying. And I really liked it. There's a cool sequence when Lestat starts to play the violin for Akasha's statue, and she kind of starts subconsciously speaking to him. And then there's a quick edit where Aaliyah herself is sitting in place of the statue, and it cuts back. It's a real blink and you'll miss it subliminal moment that had me going back and pausing it at that moment. However, you don't even have to watch that. Just skip straight to Akasha appearing at the bar and slaughtering everyone. You are fine watching the movie from this point onward. Now, there's gonna be some stuff that doesn't make sense, and that's not just because you started the movie halfway through. There are also some terrible effects in that bar scene with her walking through fire and combusting other vampires, along with some shoddy effects in general when it comes to the way super speed and flying of the vampires is portrayed. But if you're gonna watch this mess of a movie, then start in the middle when she shows up. I will say though, at the end when Akasha is killed and turns to dust, it's cool because they paint Aaliyah this gray color, and they have, again, shoddy effects kind of filling in the gaps in other places as she slowly freezes in place and then disintegrates. I also think it's weird that a movie about Akasha, Queen of the Damned, is mostly about the vampire Lestat. I would have really loved to see what an actual coherent movie based around her would have looked like. So that's my review of Queen of the Damned, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Go check out my super late review of Romeo Must Die that I just put up earlier this week. And go check out the other videos on the channel. As always, I appreciate the support, whether it's 1, 5, 10, or 100 views. Again, rest in peace to Aaliyah, and I'll catch up with you guys later.